We're talking about Dennis Bradford. Dennis Bradford had been keeping a secret for the past 20 years. That's a very long time. Like, not a single person knew his deep, dark secret that he has been just holding inside of him. He made sure that nobody knew, nobody found out. His life depended on it. His ex-wife, his current wife, his children, his legally adopted children, none of them knew what he did 20 years ago. The only person that knew his secret, they died with the secret 20 years ago. And that was his only comfort. That was the only reason he could sleep at night. That was the only thing that kept him going. But almost 20 years to the day that he had his big secret, he was pulled over for this routine stop. And somehow Dennis found himself in this interrogation room for a routine traffic stop. So things are going down. He's being asked about that dark day from 20 years ago and what happened. And, he's being asked all these things that make him feel like someone out there knows his secret. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Why would they suddenly ask him these questions about a day from 20 years ago? Maybe the detectives read his mind because they looked at him and they let him know. Hey, 20 years ago? That little 8-year-old girl that you left in a field completely naked? The one that you tortured and then slit her throat from ear to ear? That girl? The only one that knows what you did? Well, she's alive. And she's been hunting you down every single day for the past 20 years. She was the one that caught him. This was his reaction.
If you were to see her, I think you would be extremely proud of her. I really do. Oh, thank you. She's alive. Yes, she's alive. She's alive. She's alive. You want me to tell you that she's alive?
Let's talk about the incredible survivor story of Jennifer Schuett and Dennis Bradford's dark secrets, because he would have more than just this one secret that he's hiding. Now, as always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. But with that being said, let's get into the story. There were a group of kids that were gathered to play at the field. It was like the best type of field to play in. Do you remember playing in fields? No? Yes? You've never played in a field before? Okay.
School field.
Oh, no. This one's a bit different. Okay, so there is like a calculation on what the best type of field is. And when you're a kid, I used to love fields with long grass.
What?
I don't know. It's so much better than an empty flat field because you feel like you can hide better and it's just more of an adventure. You feel like you're in the jungle even though you're not.
Serious?
You're in like the suburbs. But I used to love like thin, kind of almost ticklish as you're running through it. It feels like an adventure. So that's what these girls are doing. They're probably between the ages of 6 and 10 years old. So, they're pretty young and they would all huddle around in a little center of the field and they decide who's it. They're like, you're it this time. You're going to be the one chasing all of us. And then all of them would just make a run for it. They would just web out into these different directions and just carelessly run through the field. They would turn their head back recklessly every so often just to see if that person is close to catching them. So they're screaming, shouting, giggling. They're not being quiet, but most importantly, they're being very, very carefree. They're kids. They're acting like kids. It's a beautiful thing. Now, one of the young girls was running so fast she could feel her hair just blowing in the wind and the grass was tickling her all through her sides. And she's looking back and she's laughing because she's getting ahead. And boom, she falls face first onto the ground. She had tripped on something. I guess due to the overgrown grass, she didn't see it earlier, but she turns to her left or her right to see what she tripped on. Maybe it's a giant tree branch, a discarded tire, who knows, a log. She looks down and sees that she had tripped on another girl. The foot of a naked 8-year-old girl who had her throat slit ear to ear, who had been left for dead. I mean, she was practically on her last breath. I mean, it's pretty disturbing to think about while these kids were playing. Jennifer, a child who's not that far in age from them, was barely holding on to life in that same field. I mean, she had been there for over 14 hours, paralyzed, in shock, losing blood, actively dying. And Jennifer had tried to move, for the past 14 hours, she tried to move. She tried to sit up or at least crane her neck to see where she was. But all she felt was stinging all over her body. She was frozen. She couldn't even roll over. It's like her body was still unconscious and her mind-body connection had been obliterated. She's trying her best to figure out where she is, but all she could do was move her eyes back and forth and scan the area. Even though she tried to scream, nothing came out. It's like one of those nightmares where you want to scream, nothing's pushing out, you feel this strange sensation. So Jennifer is able to force her right hand to her neck, to her throat, and it feels so weird. There was something thick and wet on her neck, and suddenly she felt pain. She lifts her hand in the air and she sees blood, like a whole lot of blood. Jennifer's arm went cold. It collapsed. She went cold again. All over her body, there was just wounds, tiny wounds everywhere. You know where she had been left in the field? Someone had discarded her on top of a fire ant hill.
Oh my goodness.
She was completely unclothed. There were hundreds and thousands of fire ants biting every single surface of her body that they could find. Jennifer had been tortured, assaulted, her throat had been slit, and left for dead on a fire ant hill. So Jennifer gets rushed to the hospital where police officers, doctors, nurses, her mother, everyone is telling her she's safe now. Everything's going to be okay now. And it wouldn't be for a while that they discovered that whoever did this, the monster that did this to her, was also a patient in that same hospital, the same time that she was there. Oh yeah, it gets really crazy. So let's start from the beginning. Jennifer says, when you're a kid, you think there are monsters in your closet. But when you become an adult, you realize the monsters are outside your window. And I think most adults out there do everything they can to protect these innocent little children for as long as they can. But sometimes these monsters find a way, no matter how much you try to keep them out, they find a way in. That's probably one of the scariest things about becoming a parent, just protecting your children from the scary world. So Elaine, Jennifer's mom, was very nervous when she found out she was pregnant. It would just be her. She was going to be a single mom. It's a total mix of emotions. She's frightened, hesitant, excited, but also very, very lost. But once baby Jennifer was born, the two of them were like this. Okay, they're inseparable. I know it sounds like a cliche. Okay, I know it sounds like one of those she lit up the rooms, but I'm telling you, the two of them had this incredible bond. Think Gilmore Girls. It's just the two of them in this scary world. They only have each other. Most people said they were more like best friends than they were mom and daughter. They kind of had this perfect life going for them. They rented this ground floor apartment in a nice area in Texas, Dickinson. And it's a small town. It's basically known for faith family football, one of those towns. And at this point in time, Jennifer was on summer break. She just finished second grade. And even though she's excited that she's on break, she's also very excited to go back to the third grade. Jennifer said that she loved life. She loved school. She loved all of her school friends. She loved learning. This was the best time in her life. She was so carefree. She loved hanging out with all of her friends, but more importantly, she liked hanging out with her mom. So naturally, Jennifer liked to sleep in her mom's room, and she's 8, okay? She's got her own room, and her room is great. It's decorated all cute, but she just really likes sleeping with her mom, I think. When you're a kid, there is no other comfortable feeling than sleeping with your parents in the same bed as them. I feel like I don't remember a single time that I felt more at peace than at those ages, when you're just sleeping with your parents because you can just turn your brain off. It's just the ultimate comfort. So one summer evening, August 10th, 1990, Jennifer and her mom are settled in her mom's bed. Elaine had work the next day because, there's no summer break when you're an adult and you get a job. Shocking. So she tells Jennifer, we got to sleep early. I got to wake up early for work, and then we've got some childcare coming for you, but it's a whole thing. So they tell each other good night, turn off the light, and both of them start drifting off. And then boom, Elaine jerks awake, and another boom. Jennifer is fast asleep and is kicking her. She's probably sprawled out on this bed like a starfish at this point. Elaine is getting bullied off of her own bed by her 8-year-old daughter, and she's got no room to sleep. She's trying to push Jennifer to the side, but Jennifer's not budging. So she gently wakes up Jennifer. Sweetie, I'm so sorry, but you're kicking me in your sleep and I've got work in the morning. Would you mind going to your own room tonight? Jennifer wakes up and says, because I love you, Mom, I will. I'll go to my own room. So she grabs her little pillow, and this is the exact conversation. She rolls out of her mom's bed and walks into her room, which her room has this twin bed next to the window, which is probably why Jennifer's mom didn't go to Jennifer's room herself. It's a small, like a kid bed, a twin bed. She's got a nightstand beside that with a globe on top of it. And it just looked like your average cute 8-year-old's room. So typically, if Jennifer sleeps in her own room, Elaine will go over there, tuck her into bed, read her a bedtime story. They do their I love yous, check under the bed for monsters, check in the closet for monsters, then finally turn off the light, and then Elaine would leave the room. But technically, they already did all of that. And since Jennifer was already sleepy, everyone just assumed that she would just go into her room and fall asleep again. But when Jennifer opens the door to her room, it's so dark. So she starts getting a little freaked out, okay? She flicks on the little light bulb lamp that she has, which sounds like just a light bulb, but it was actually a light bulb shaped lamp that had a light bulb inside. Yeah. So she liked to keep the light on because, she's 8 and monsters are scared of the light. So her version of monsters at this point are furry bears with claws. Like, think Monsters, Inc. She's not thinking people outside, people inside. She's thinking Monsters, Inc. She flicks on the light and she decides, I can't fall asleep right now, so I'm just going to go through my bedtime routine by myself. I'm going to pick a book from my shelf and start reading it in bed, and hopefully I'll fall asleep. That was the whole plan. She starts reading to fall asleep, and although the lamp was still on and bright, Jennifer drifts off into sleep in no time. She's like knocked out. Now, a couple of things to note. Her shades were not drawn, or they were not closed, so there was no curtain or shades or blinders that were blocking her window. Her light is on, and her window was open a crack to let in that nice summer Texas breeze. Jennifer had a nightmare. Or at least it felt like she was having a nightmare, okay? One where she was getting tossed around like a doll, and she opened her eyes expecting to be in bed still, but she looked up to see her body being moved by a man that she did not recognize. He was carrying her. He had one hand over her mouth and her nose, and he's booking it down the sidewalk. He's running full speed while she's being bopped around in his arms, and she's trying to hit him to make him stop and let go, but she's 8. This is a full-grown man. Jennifer was barely 4 feet. She weighed under 50 pounds. Yeah, this man overpowered her in every single physical aspect. But I think that's where some people underestimate children, okay? Jennifer was very, very sharp. Even while she was being smothered by this giant hand, she wanted to stay alert. So she's looking around and she thinks to herself, 2 doors, blue yucky paint.
Wow.
That was the car that this man threw her into. He gets in, locks the car doors, and within seconds, they were already on the road. He forces Jennifer to sit on his lap, and he had one hand on the wheel and another hand on her head to yank her head down anytime another car passed them. Jennifer was so terrified. She's just analyzing the situation, trying to find a way out, when finally the man speaks. It's okay. Everything's going to be okay. I'm an undercover police officer. A police officer? Jennifer felt a little bit better because at the time, this is in the 90s, 1990. Most parents, most teachers tell their children, if you get lost and can't find your parents, what do? You find the police. I mean, there was ultimate trust in the police at the time. There was ultimate trust for the general public, for doctors, teachers. There was no concept of don't listen to these authority figures because they might not be good people. So Jennifer's confused. I mean, what is going on? I'm supposed to trust this guy. I want to believe him, but there is just something so off about him. He doesn't feel like a police officer. So she tells him, well, can I see your gun and badge then? I don't have my gun or badge with me right now. What? Jennifer was confused, but she looks up, and right at that moment, she sees that they're driving past her grandparents' house. So Elaine's parents' house, they live nearby. And she's eagerly telling him, oh, that's my grandparents. You should drop me off here. You need to drop me off because they can help me. If you're a police officer and you took me because I'm in danger, you need to drop me off with my grandparents. He didn't stop driving. And Jennifer realized if he was a police officer, surely he would have taken her to a trusted family member's house, right? This is the moment that Jennifer started to believe that she was being kidnapped. But she didn't just panic. She was quick on her feet. She remembered looking at him and repeating in her head, glasses, mustache, yucky hair, scar on face. Suddenly, the car stops moving and Jennifer pops her head up and she sees that the stranger pulled into the parking lot of her elementary school. Did he know it was her school? Did he pull into the lot by chance? I don't know, but he tells her, and it's very strange. He tells her, look out the window at the moon. When the moon changes colors, your mom will meet us here to pick you up. Mind you, Jennifer has never seen the colors of the moon change before, so what is he even saying? She tries to stay hopeful, though, and she stares out the window, just waiting for the headlights to approach. But they never approach. I mean, it felt like an eternity that she's waiting for her mom. Later, it's suspected that he was using this time to psych himself up for what he was about to do next. He kept offering her to eat some candy, but Jennifer knew better. She's like, no way, absolutely not. A stranger giving me candy? Nope. And she starts trying to think of a way out because it was clear to her that there's no headlights coming. Her mom's not coming. This man's not a police officer. And even if he was, that would have been scarier. She realized she was in extreme, serious danger. He starts driving the car again, and he goes down this gravel road while he tells her, well, your mom's not coming. Jennifer's trying to self-soothe because while this is happening, she has no idea what's going on. She doesn't even know what this man would want with an 8-year-old little girl. She tries not to panic, and she makes it her mission to just remember everything. She remembers seeing cigarettes, Marlboros, the red and gold ones, empty beer cans, bottles. She remembers all of this. And then finally, the car turns off, and the man pulls her out into this overgrown field with tall grass. He lunges for her throat and holds a knife up to it. Am I scaring you, little girl? Am I scaring you? She said he dropped the knife and started choking her over and over and over again. She was completely blacked out, and when she came to, he would choke her again and she would black out, and it felt like he was trying to kill her. It didn't even feel like he was just trying to strangle her, but he was full on trying to snap her neck. That's how she felt. She lost consciousness again, and during these times we later find out that she was brutally assaulted. And the next thing that she felt was her body being dragged through the field by her ankles. She was barely able to stay awake at this point, let alone even fight back or even move or talk. She felt him drop her legs and walk off. He had already slit her throat at this point. His car door slammed and he drove off, just leaving her in the field for dead. Any time that she woke up and tried to figure out what the hell was going on, she would fade out into unconsciousness again. She said, I would come in and out of consciousness, and every time I would come to, I would just be in disbelief that I hadn't died yet. Now, before she knew it, the sun was rising, and it's the next day already. Jennifer could feel all of these little stings and nips all over her little body, and she felt these things crawling and biting her, and she tries screaming for help. But that's when she discovers that big gaping wound, basically a hole in her neck. Her hand was covered in blood. Anytime she tried to hold her neck together, whether from shock or pain or from loss of blood, she would just drift back into darkness. This kept happening all day long. So that's what she was doing all night long, into the morning, then all day long, until early evening rolls around. And this time, she could hear passing cars on the road. She tried to turn her head to see if she could make out these cars, but all she saw was them driving past in the distance. She can't move, she can't scream. And at this point, she said she just felt exhausted. Just tired. She felt like she had been fighting for so long. It had been at least 14 hours since the man dragged her into the field, completely naked on top of a fire ant hill, beaten, bitten, and her neck slit. I mean, she just wanted rest. Jennifer said she felt this kind of peace in this moment, like a wave of peace. She wasn't afraid anymore. She didn't care about the cars that were driving past anymore. She didn't care to try and move or scream. She didn't even care that there was nearby voices in the field. She just felt very peaceful. At just 8 years old, Jennifer was dying. And she closed her eyes one last time, thinking it would surely be the last time. I imagine she thought about her mom or her friends from school, or I don't know. But speaking of her friends from school, it felt like she could hear them right now. Or at least she could hear people right now, like young little kids playing in the field. And those voices started coming closer and closer to Jennifer. And she could make out the sound of a young girl giggling and running through the field, laughing with her friends. These weren't Jennifer's friends, but they were all very close in age. That little girl ran, giggling, not a care in the world, until she tripped over Jennifer's limp foot.
Wow, that is crazy.
Jennifer remembers the girl's little voice turning into multiple voices that become louder and louder, and it felt like there was a whole commotion over her. She tried to wake up, and all she could see was a police officer, which was probably traumatizing. But this one was in uniform, and they told her, "You've been found. You're going to be okay. Stay with us. Just please stay with us." Sharon McBride is a pediatric ICU nurse. She clocked in for her night shift and she starts reviewing her patient's charts, and her heart drops. She was assigned to a room with an 8-year-old girl, which is the same age as her own daughter, which is always hard for Sharon. But the alarming part about this was that there was a police escort stationed in front of this 8-year-old girl's room. That could only mean two things when police and pediatrics are involved. It's either child abuse or juvenile offender. Sharon asks around and she gets filled in on what happened and decides it is her mission for however long it takes to make sure that Jennifer heals and gets out of this hospital stronger than before. The doctors and nurses informed Sharon that Jennifer was airlifted to the hospital via a helicopter, and everyone thought that she was going to die. Her chance of survival was slim to none, practically non-existent. Her skin was completely pale, drained of all color and blood. Her body was covered in ant bites. I mean, every single surface area of her body was bitten by fire ants. She had contusions that indicated that she had been beaten. And of course, doctors speculated SA because she was found unclothed in a field with intense scratches on her back. Jennifer was in and out of consciousness, and the only part of her body that she could control at the time were her eyes. She couldn't move, she couldn't speak, she has these piercing blue eyes that are beautiful, and she's staring at the doctors. She's so scared. I mean, the whites of her eyes were bloodshot to the point of being a thick, opaque color. So think just red and blue in her eye. And this is so heart-wrenching. But the doctors noticed that anytime a male doctor or a male nurse or any male staffer would come anywhere near, her eyes would widen in panic, reaffirming their belief that something horrendous had happened before she was left for dead. Her mom wasn't allowed in the room because they're performing life-saving treatments and they can't risk a parent intervening. So they need to focus all their attention on saving Jennifer. The hospital decides female doctors and nurses would be taking the lead when Jennifer is conscious, and they would be reassuring her that she was safe and nobody was going to hurt her. She's rushed into the OR and Jennifer was put to sleep once more, and they called this ENT specialist. So ENT, eyes, nose, throat, right? Her ears, nose, throat. And because Jennifer's trachea had been slashed in half. That's why she couldn't scream. I mean, it was a genuine miracle that this laceration on her neck missed all of the major blood vessels. If the knife had gone any deeper or had cut any wider, it would have resulted in practically instant death in that field because all the vital blood vessels in that neck, she would have bled out instantly.
Wow.
So, yeah, the doctors work to ensure her airway is intact and that the bleeding has stopped. But it's not a day to celebrate. Like, it's not a good day. Every single medical professional in that OR knew that Jennifer would never be able to speak again. The trauma to her throat was so extensive, it slashed her voice box. Her vocal cords were slashed in half. There was just no way. So being caught up to speed, Sharon was adamant that she was going to do whatever it takes to make sure that Jennifer feels safe. Nurse Sharon. She's not going to allow anyone to re-traumatize this young girl. Sharon would slip into the room and watch Jennifer even when she slept. And she just could feel all these tears threatening to come out because all she can think about is her daughter at home. Like, who is doing this to someone this young? Sharon was a seasoned nurse, though. Whenever she was scared or emotional, she never let it show. She said standing there looking at Jennifer, the fact that this little 8-year-old girl had suffered something like this, horrendous trauma. My heart aches for her. What on earth was her life going to be like now? How was this going to affect the rest of her life? So no matter what Jennifer was doing, Sharon was always in her room. Even if she was sleeping, even if she was eating, Sharon literally never left her side. Jennifer's mom was also allowed to be there now, and she was beside herself with grief and anger. She had woken up the next morning to get ready for work. She slowly opened Jennifer's door, expecting her to still be fast asleep. But instead, her bed was empty, Jennifer was nowhere to be seen, and the window was wide open. She called 911 and she had not stopped searching for Jennifer until she got the call that she was in the hospital. And now, just like Nurse Sharon, she's not going to leave Jennifer's side. Sharon quickly becomes one of the first few people that Jennifer trusted. So Jennifer later said that she was very difficult to deal with in the hospital. She said, I had a lot of male doctors. I was scared of men now. And side note, the man who assaulted her told her he was a police officer, and she said, I learned in school that police were good. The man that hurt me said he was a police officer, and he hurt me really, really bad. So in my eyes, who's to say that these doctors can be trusted? Like, at that point, everyone was a suspect in my book. At one point, she even kicked one of the male doctors in the stomachs to get him away from her. And she was just in this constant state of fear and panic in the hospital, which is not good for your recovery. Now, just to clarify, in case I forgot to mention, Jennifer was able to move now after her operation. She was actually never paralyzed in a sense. It was just fear, pain, and trauma that prevented her from moving because her body went into ultimate survival mode. So she's like kicking these male doctors, which a lot of them were not offended. They just felt like it was good. It's improvement in her situation. It's her recovering. She's got strength. She's a fighter. Even just looking into the mirror, though, was traumatic for Jennifer. One of her uncles brought her this Tinkerbell makeup set as a gift while she was in the hospital, and that's how she saw herself for the first time. She saw blood vessels were bursting in the whites of her eyes, and she just said she felt so ugly. That little girl that she saw in the mirror, she's like, I don't know who that girl is. That's not me. I mean, it must have been so alienating and disorienting for her. Like, her reflection was a literal stranger. So Jennifer's mom and nurse Sharon, they would be pivotal in catching whoever did this to Jennifer. This is in Dickinson, Texas. Like I said, very, very small community. The police are like, we need to catch who did this to Jennifer before everybody starts freaking the fork out. And we don't have much to go off of. So right now, we've got Jennifer's pajamas that were found in the field. We've got a blue men's t-shirt and a pair of men's underwear that was also discarded nearby in the field where Jennifer was found. But at this point in time, I know you're like looking at me like, that's amazing. That's all you need. In this point in time, DNA evidence was not specific enough to ID a suspect with such a small sample. Like DNA back then, you would need like a blood sample. You would need like a genuine sample. So these things, they would be kept in evidence, but there's nothing that can be tested that could tell them anything. So it's pertinent to the police that they catch whoever did this because there is a danger out there to children. The police also had no leads, no potential suspects, no witnesses. The only thing the police had was Jennifer, and there was a lot of concern about talking to Jennifer about what had happened to her. First of all, she's 8, and this could easily re-traumatize her. Second of all, adults alone have a very hard time remembering details, especially after traumatic events. How could they expect an 8-year-old to remember? And third, she was very, very scared of people right now, especially men. And this is a small town in Texas. Majority of the police force were men. And fourth, she couldn't speak or make noise, so she could just blink or once or twice to say yes or no, and she could either write on a sketch pad. But Jennifer, yes, she's smarter than I would ever be, even at just 8 years old, but she does have like the reading comprehension and the writing skills of a second grader, which is to be expected. So they come up with this system where the police would ask Jennifer's mom and nurse Sharon all these questions that they want Jennifer to answer. They would go in with a sketch pad and Jennifer would write down her answers. Her ability to recall traumatic memories and the fact that she was so observant is out of this world. I mean, these would all lead to be key circumstantial evidence later that would help with the arrest. 8-year-old Jennifer Schuett not only survived her abduction, but she remembered almost every single detail about the man who climbed into her bedroom window and kidnapped her. And her notes would forever be known as Jennifer's notes. She wrote in detail about what she wore that night, that she was asleep when she was grabbed, that he told her to shut up, that he was white, he had glasses, brown hair, totally green tattoos, black mustache, in his 30s maybe. She even drew a little sketch to show where the scars on his face were. And at the very last page she wrote, he said his name was Dennis.
Wow.
So during this process, Sharon, the nurse who was pivotal in helping Jennifer open up about these details, she was so impressed by Jennifer's memory, but also so devastated. She would say, "Thank you, Jennifer. That's really good. You did good." And then she would excuse herself, rush out of the room, down the hallway, into a break room. And when she was finally alone, she would lose it. I mean, she would just break down. After Jennifer's notes were completed, the authorities even brought in a female forensic artist. So she's like a composite sketch artist who's going to talk to Jennifer and start drawing the attacker. This was Jennifer's 4th day at the hospital. She's heavily medicated, in excruciating pain, reliving her trauma, but nevertheless, within an hour, they have their composite sketch of the suspect. It showed a man with dark hair, dark eyes, dark eyebrows, and a mustache and stubble all over his chin. He also had a scar on his face. They turn it into the police, and I think this is when Jennifer focuses all of her energy on just recovery now. Now, remember how the first responders said that there's no way she's going to survive? Well, she did. And remember how they said that she would never talk again? Well, she did.
What?
In the hospital, it all started with this tiny little noise, like a soft noise. And everyone just went quiet. So they're like, is that coming from Jennifer? Slowly but surely, she started to talk. She had to relearn inflection and speech patterns, but all of it returned. I mean, her voice, her octaves, inflection, tone, all of it was restored. She was proof that the impossible was possible. Jennifer now jokes as an adult, and I haven't shut up since. Okay. But even though she's defying all these odds, okay, it's still very scary for her to go back to the normal world because her attacker is still out there somewhere. What if he comes back to finish the job? What if he comes back to make sure that she will never be able to talk about it again? Nobody would have blamed Jennifer if she wanted to move, if she never wanted to leave the house again, if she wanted to switch schools, move states. But she started 3rd grade at the same time all of her classmates did.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she went straight back from summer break to school. And they didn't move?
I think they moved apartments, but not towns.
Wow.
So Jennifer got closer and closer to how her life was, but the police are getting further and further from catching the attacker. Days turned into weeks, and you know how it goes. It was a cold case. Jennifer's an adult. She's no longer that 8-year-old girl. Which, side note, I know I'm making it out to be like, oh, Jennifer is so strong, which she is. Oh my gosh, she's so strong. But she also went through a lot. Like, this was not an easy road where she's like, okay, guys, I'm just going to go back to school now and be fine. She remembers being a child. She would lock herself into the bathroom for hours and just stare at the, quote, ugly long red scar on her neck. She felt like she did something to deserve this attack. She couldn't participate in PE classes anymore because of her airways. So she would have to go to the nurse's office and she would sit there while the rest of her friends played. She was scared of parking lots, of windows, of going to sleep, of the dark. She had anxiety, panic attacks, PTSD. Most nights, she would just sit up for hours at night just trying to calm herself to sleep. This is what an 8-year-old is going through while the case goes cold. The only news that she would hear periodically was that her case was being reassigned to a different officer. This is very bureaucratic. It's like a new officer comes in and they're like, oh, well, you get this case, and nothing really happens. And it's a pretty shitty and scary feeling knowing that the person who did this is still out there. But Jennifer, she's trying to move on. She starts working at a public library during college years. She had a really strong maternal instinct. Her title, everyone nicknamed her the children's librarian. Kids just gravitated towards her. They loved her. And she just wanted to have kids one day. That was her dream, to be a mom. So she falls in love with this man, Jonathan Martinez. The two of them get married, and Jonathan was like the man of her dreams, the one that she wanted to have children with and start a family with. He was like the biggest cheerleader. He knew everything that she went through to be who she is now. She had to learn to be less afraid of the dark, to sleep alone again. She had to unlearn her deep-rooted fear of men, like even doctors and police and men in her life that she could trust. She had to unlearn that fear. Everywhere she went, grocery store, park, anywhere, she would constantly scan all the men's faces looking for any familiarity. She said, it could have been our new neighbor, or someone at the post office, someone at the grocery store. I never knew. Is he watching us? Is he going to come back and finish me off? I never knew. This is what she would have to go through every day for the rest of her life. But Jonathan was helping her through it. Even when she was diagnosed with, hydrosalpinx, I think. At just 25 years old, he was right there with her. So if you're wondering what that is, it's a condition where your fallopian tubes are blocked and they're filled with fluid. She was told by her doctors that it was due to complications as a result of the essay when she was 8. And because they're blocked and filled with fluid, she may never be able to conceive any children. The doctors told her, even with corrective surgery, your chances of becoming a mother naturally are slim to none. So this devastation just starts hitting again. Like, she's finally moving on from everything that's happened, and boom, her life goal, her life dream to have a family has been shattered. Devastation doesn't even begin to describe how Jennifer felt. The man who did this to her is walking free, and she is dealing with the consequences that he forced upon her. An infertility diagnosis alone is very, very traumatic for a lot of people. It's life-altering emotional news. But the fact that Jennifer's infertility was directly caused by the fact that she was SA'd at 8 years old, I can't even imagine the sheer amount of rage and anger I would have felt. Like, I don't even think I would be able to function from the hatred I would have for the world and for life. So while she's in the thick of these emotions from this diagnosis, she gets a phone call from a man named Tim Cromie. Tim Cromie was the new detective that was in charge of her case. It had been 18 years since her attack. 18 years. I mean, she's all grown up now, and here was another officer taking a look at her case. There had been so many before him that took a look at her case, and what? Nothing happened. I mean, it was more painful to even convince herself that this one's gonna be different. But there was something about Detective Cromie. He called Jennifer personally to let her know that he was taking over, and he wanted to meet with her in person. It was the first time she was requested to talk to a police officer about her case. They met for the first time at the police station, and honestly, Jennifer was frustrated, she was upset, and she let it out. She thought to herself, here we are 18 years later, like, what is this guy gonna do? She met with him, and she just starts bawling. She's breaking down, and she's saying, it's not even about me anymore, okay? It's not even about what happened to me, because what's happened has happened, but that man could still be out there hurting kids. Like, you don't even know how many kids he could have hurt since he hurt me. It's been 18 years. I mean, it's likely I'm not the last or the only one. Detective Cromie sat and listened, and when he finally spoke, he said, Jennifer, I will do whatever I can in my power till the end of my career to get you the answers that you need for this case. Jennifer said, that simple sentence changed my life. For the first time since what happened, Jennifer had hoped that she might get justice. She told Detective Cromie, I want a trial. I want to help, and I want a trial. I want to face this guy in court. She said, I want to be able to face the person that wanted to silence me and show them that I came out victorious. So she puts her trust in Detective Cromie, and he did not take that lightly, okay? He felt like he owed her answers. Now, it's 2009, 19 years since the attack, which in police investigations, we know that time is the enemy. Like, they barely have anything to go off of. Detective Cromie reaches out to the FBI to help with the investigation, and in 2009, this was the year for a lot of new tech. DNA testing had grown significantly. So the police sent the clothes off to Quantico for them to be tested for any sort of DNA that they could find. Now, side note, the police knew that there would be a long line for DNA testing done at Quantico, and their crime took place 19 years ago, so this case is not going to be a priority, but they had no idea how long it was going to take, truly. So DNA testing, it's a very lengthy process. It's not like this easy, I just put it in a machine and a computer screen pops up and it says, hey, we've got this DNA in our system. It takes a lot of people. The machines are not fast and quick, especially in 2009. To get results turned over is not easy. And not every police station or law enforcement agency has these machines, so most of them get sent to the FBI. So they've got every single DNA evidence from all these states coming in. They have to prioritize it. What's urgent? Who's in immediate danger? What needs to be solved today versus a case happened 19 years ago? It took a year. It took a year for them to get it back. Detective Cromie got a call at 2:30 in the morning. They had a match. Whoever did this was already in the system. So, who was it? A man named Dennis, remember that name?
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Dennis Earl Bradford. The detectives went back to Jennifer's notes and they saw the name was Dennis. They said it was monumental that this girl was that accurate. The detectives thought, well, we never heard of this guy though, but apparently he has a criminal record. They look him up, and Dennis Earl Bradford had been convicted of kidnapping and rape in 1997, 7 years after Jennifer's attack. But they noted that this happened in Arkansas. So as far as the police could track, Dennis had been living in Arkansas since at least 1991. So they called the driver's license bureau in Texas and they tried to figure out, okay, well, he was in 1991, he was in Arkansas. Maybe he was in Texas before then. So let's figure out if he was a resident of Texas before we hunt this guy down in Arkansas, because then we got to get multiple agencies involved, right? So they look him up in Texas records, and there he was. They were even sent a picture of his Texas license ID picture from back when he was a Texas resident. Their jaw hit the floor. Remember the composite sketch? They said this was the most accurate composite sketch they had ever seen in their entire careers. It looked like the sketch artist had drawn the picture based off of Dennis's driver's license photo.
Wow.
And the fact that an 8-year-old girl did this.
Wow.
I mean, the details were spot on. It was insane. And when Dennis was in Texas, his residential address was in Dickinson around the time of the crime. Dickinson. In fact, from Jennifer's apartment window, you could probably see his residence. He only lived a few blocks away. So let's get this Dennis guy, okay? Who even is he? Let's backtrack a little and dig into who this guy is. And there's not much on his childhood out there, but he would have been 20 when he attacked Jennifer. Soon after, he moved from Texas to Arkansas. And we know that he got married at 21 years old to an 18-year-old Lisa. And they had 2 kids together, but the marriage would disintegrate. He was a bit of a binge drinker. It seemed like everyone saw Dennis's life and it was just falling apart. Dennis was not very good person. He was not a good person. Yeah, what can I say? Even though they didn't even know his secrets, just wasn't a good person. They get divorced, and in 1996, he's at a local bar when he spots a girl across from the bar and offers to buy her a drink. She politely declines, but he keeps asking for all these things. Just one drink. Just play around a pool with me. Let's do this. Let's do that. She finally just agrees to get him off of her back. And he proceeds to buy her drink after drink after drink throughout their whole pool game, their game of pool. And once they were finished, he offers her a ride home. She accepts it, but in his car, he's like, can we take the long way, the scenic route? There's a couple of songs that I want you to listen to, and I want to show you some property nearby. She didn't really want to, but she couldn't control him. He just starts driving down the back road. He stops the car, and without even hesitating, he begins choking and punching the woman. She starts losing consciousness. He drags her out of the car. When she woke up, she was naked. Her clothes were scattered in a field. Dennis told her not to move. He ran back to his car, came back with a knife, put the knife to her neck, and raped her, assaulted her. Which, side note, his MO is so similar to the attack on Jennifer in 1990. It's hard to imagine that this was his second time. I suspect that there were other victims, and the fact that this victim said that he never hesitated, whereas with Jennifer it seemed like he was hesitating, is that him getting more and more comfortable with his crimes the more he commits them? Fortunately, he did not slit this woman's throat. She was able to flee and alert the police. He was arrested and charged with attempted first-degree murder. Now, for some strange reason, the charges were later reduced to kidnapping and rape. Now, side note, this is infuriating, but the jury, they were deadlocked on the sexual assault charge. How do you get deadlocked on that? How are you deadlocked when this man put his knife to her throat and then assaulted her? Like, how do you convict him of kidnapping, but then you're somehow confused? You're like, well, we don't know if he's that bad. I mean, what is there to be confused about? He was sentenced to 12 years and ordered to provide a DNA sample for the database. Arkansas correction records showed that he served less than 3 years in prison before he was released. He was paroled February of 2000. He was arrested the next year for drinking and driving. And in 2004, Dennis remarried a woman named Elizabeth. She had 3 children before marrying Dennis, and he legally adopted them, legally becoming their stepfather. Which scares me because, I mean, think about it. He's a father and a stepfather. Creepy. Now, from then on, we don't know what he was doing. We don't know if he had any other victims, but we do know that he was in North Little Rock when he was arrested during a routine traffic stop without incident. He was arrested by the Arkansas police, brought into the station where the Texas detectives were there to meet him. He was held without bail on the attempted murder charge. When Jennifer got that call that he was arrested, she said, "It was the most surreal moment of my life. It meant everything to me." When she went to the press conference a little bit after the initial arrest, she remembers how Detective Gromy and Agent Renison from the FBI came into the room and hugged me, and they whispered in my ear, "We told you we'd get him." And at that time, that was the single most amazing moment of my life. But they still had work to do. Even though the case testimony and evidence is already incredibly accurate, Detective Gromy still had to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Dennis was responsible for the attack. And since 19 years had passed, it's going to be harder to do. So after Dennis was booked, he was interviewed about Jennifer's case from 19 years ago. Now, side note, because Jennifer was a minor when this happened and it was an ongoing investigation, the information in case files were not publicized.
Okay.
So that means the last time Dennis saw Jennifer was when he dumped her body in the field 19 years ago. He believed wholeheartedly that she was dead because that was his intention. He left her for dead on top of an ant pile. He firmly believed he killed that 8-year-old little girl. He had no reason to believe otherwise. The detectives start by asking him if he had ever heard of Jennifer Schuett. Yes. He stated that he remembered hearing in the community talking about, a girl that was left in the field, and he prayed for her. Did you ever have occasion to come in contact with her? Yes. Tell me about it. No. You don't want to talk about it? No. Is there a reason why? You did your homework. You're right, Dennis, we did do our homework. And if you're remorseful about this, people need to hear that. There's two sides to every story. Dennis starts to tear up before saying, "Not a single day goes by where I don't see that baby." There is no other side to the story. She was innocent, and I was a sick, deranged, beat-up little fucking punk. She wasn't anybody I met. I don't remember why I pulled up to those apartments. Huh. Well, I think if you were to see her, I think you would be extremely proud. I really do. Dennis breaks down sobbing and says, "She's alive? She's alive?" Yes, she's alive. And let me tell you something right now. She's with us.
You ever heard the name Jennifer Schuett?
Yes.
Did you ever have occasion to come in contact with her?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
No. My whole life for the past 20 years has been utterly and completely because of my mistake.
If you were to see her, I think you would be extremely proud of her. I really do.
Oh, thank you. She's alive.
Yes.
She's alive.
She's alive. You want me to tell you the secret?
Well, you have no idea how hard I have prayed for that. I'm a firm believer of Christ, but I had no idea, because it wasn't but about 2 days later I ran, and I just took off.
Dennis explains he was randomly driving around that night and pulled into a random lot, and he stated, "I walked over to the window. I remember it was open and I could see in it and the light was on. And I just want this to be over. And I'm sick and tired of looking over my shoulder and being afraid, so forgive me, Mom." I pulled that little girl out of that window and I put her in my car. She was freaking out and I told her, "Please don't worry, it's all right." I told that little girl that I was a police officer, that everything was going to be okay, and I pulled off into this little road, and that little girl, she was so scared. I just lost it. I was like a savaged animal. I couldn't force myself to say it, and I can't force myself to say it right now. This has been haunting you your whole life, Dennis. Let's hear it. I took that little girl out there, and I raped her, and I cut her throat, and I don't know why, and I've never known why. Many, many times, I've just wanted to end it, but I never had the guts. He told the police officer that he used a shotgun to try and end his own life shortly after what he did to Jennifer, but he decided not to. He did, however, blow a hole through his parents' roof, and he was brought into the hospital after his attempt. The same hospital that Jennifer was in. The same hospital Jennifer was recovering in. Jennifer had every right to be afraid of this guy because he was in the same hospital. But ultimately, Dennis confirms all the details that she remembered, and he confesses to it all. And Jennifer was so relieved. At the press conference, she declared, "I'm not a victim. I'm victorious." Jennifer had waited 19 years for this, and now she focused all of her attention on prepping for this trial. Dennis admits to the crime. He matched the description, he matched the DNA, and they were planning to go for a life sentence. She had routinely went to the field that she had been abandoned in, not constantly, but several times. She would visit so that she said, I just really wanted to be able to remember all the details of the attack, so that one day if I ever could, I could go to court and tell my story the way it was.
Wow.
Now, he was supposed to appear in front of the judge on August 10th. Jennifer had picked the date. Exactly 20 years of the day of the attack. She said it was a full circle moment. She stayed up countless nights prepping for her statement. She said writing it, erasing it, writing it, erasing it, just trying to perfect it. She had 19 years of things she wanted to say, but she wouldn't be able to do it. Or at least not the way she imagined. She gets a call from Detective Cromie, and her heart dropped. She already knew. Dennis had hanged himself in his jail cell after confessing. He made a noose from his bedding, and there was no signs of foul play. It was definitely suicide. So he died, 40 years old, May 10th, 2010. It's believed that Dennis was a serial predator to children and adults. He knew that his life was over the minute he was caught. More of his crimes would likely surface. He knew the things that other inmates would do to him if he spent the rest of his life in prison. So instead of taking these consequences, facing the consequences, he took the, quote, easy way out. Detective Cromie remembers this phone call. He said he'll never forget this phone call. He said, there was just crying and screaming on the other end of the phone. She didn't want to believe it. The only thing I could do was just tell her I was sorry. Jennifer said, the only thing I can describe is devastation. I felt like everything I had worked so hard for was just ripped away from me in an instant. And now that Dennis was deceased, his case was immediately dropped, and Jennifer felt like she could go to his grave. She had to. Exactly 20 years later, instead of going to court, Jennifer and her husband went to Dennis's grave, August 10th of 2010, and she read her impact statement that she had prepared for court, and she read it directly to Dennis while standing over his dead body. She read, Dennis Bradford, I waited 19 years, 2 months, and 3 days to find out your last name, and for you to be caught. You chose the wrong little 45-pound 8-year-old girl to try and murder because for 19 years, I've thought about you every single day. And I've helped searching for you. I didn't know who you were or where you were, but in my head, I knew you were out there alive, either in prison or living a lie. And now I know, listening to my heart all these years and never giving up on finding you, I was right. All this time you've been living a lie. You thought you killed me, you thought you won, that sick little game that you had started, but again, you were wrong. You left me there in a fire ant pile like I was nothing, like I was an old rag doll that you discarded in a field as trash after having your fun torturing her. Over 14 hours I laid there in that field bleeding to death, knowing that one day I'd face you. And to know that you'd never hurt another person, that is what has kept me going. And today I sit in front of you as a 28-year-old woman, and I would like you to know that I'm not a victim because of what happened 20 years ago. I've waited for this day for 20 years of my life, and I hope you now feel as weak as you made me feel all those years ago as a child. Dennis Bradford, I'm not your victim. I'm victorious. And then the most surreal thing happened. Jennifer turned to her husband and asked, "Do you think he heard me?" Ow! She looked down, and right then and there, a single fire ant bit her ankle. And she took it as a sign from God that he had heard her loud and clear. And to this day, Jennifer, Detective Cromie, and Special Agent Renison, as well as Nurse Sharon, they all keep in contact. Jennifer said, "They mean a lot to me, and to know that they're still there, they're still supporting me, they're not leaving me anytime soon, just like I'm not leaving them anytime soon." But the story doesn't even end there. Remember how Jennifer was diagnosed with a condition that made it nearly impossible for her to have her own children. A doctor heard about her story and heard of her diagnosis, offered Jennifer and Jonathan free IVF. IVF is not guaranteed to work, side note, but just to try, right? The couple have since then welcomed 2 beautiful children into their family, a daughter and a son, which is remarkable because medical professionals doubted that she would survive. It would take a miracle, they said. Medical professionals doubted that she would ever talk again. It would take a miracle, they said. Medical professionals doubted that she could ever conceive her own children. It would take a miracle, they said. And she did it all. And I'm gonna cry. Oh my God. Yeah, she really is a woman that proved the impossible is possible. And nowadays, she spends a lot of her time helping other survivors of SA. She travels to connect with people and to educate people on the pure devastation of these sort of violent crimes. And that is the story of Jennifer Schuett. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, it's devastating. It's so sad, but the fact that she's so strong and we can all smile at the end is something, right? But I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and I will see you guys on Wednesday for the main episode. Bye. Stay safe. To be the best at something is already quite difficult. To be the best at hosting parties in Los Angeles is near impossible. I would not be surprised if the best party event planner in Los Angeles is paid in the 7-figure range per year. It's all about the famous caterers, the decorators, a giant ice sculpture shaped like a throbbing Academy Award, because how else will anybody know that you have one? Trays of caviar being served with McDonald's chicken nuggets, because pairing and wasting caviar on something that is not expensive is the ultimate signal of wealth in Los Angeles. These are likely some of the prerequisites on throwing the best parties in LA. Unless your name is Al. Al does not do any of this, but everybody wants to go to his house parties. There are no trays in the bathroom for people to do lines of snow off of. There's not a single fish egg in sight. Just strange invitations that show up at your doorstep. The invitations are vague, but they're pretty straightforward in the sense of like it's vague depending on how you're going to execute it. But, quote, bring a copy of the book that you have most enjoyed. I would spend days thinking about that. Do they mean smut? Do they mean like fun book? Do they mean educational book, self-help book that transformed my life, or book that I had the most hee ha ha kicking my feet reading? What does it mean? Or another, bring the most interesting person that you've ever met. How do you even get the most interesting person to come with you? Because you're not the most interesting person. They're probably the most interesting person. When you show up, you likely realize that you have brought the least interesting person with you, because there are Nobel Prize-winning physicists. The guy over there works for NASA. He won't tell you what he does, but he works for NASA. Magicians, celebrities who are not even the star of the party. The host himself, Al, will usher you inside with his arm draped around your shoulder as if you've been best friends for decades, even though he looks a few decades older than you, and almost like it is just planned from the beginning. Somehow he's asking you about how the car ride was there traffic, how was it coming up the hills, and then suddenly you're standing in front of a painting on a wall. Is the painting moving? It's likely that later someone at the party will lean over and tell you, oh, you don't know? Al's the world's greatest collector of optical illusions. Apparently he made a lot of money dealing rare books, and now he collects optical illusions like that painting. Al is the type of guy that likes to say things like, reality is that which exists independently of your perception or beliefs. Your perception may be aligned with reality, and then it may not be, and you wouldn't know.
So reality is that which exists independently of your perceptions or belief, and your perception may be aligned with reality, and then it may not be, and you wouldn't know.
I don't know what that means. What does that mean? He's even released multiple books on optical illusions, and a lot of people at the time think that he just has this oddball quality about him. He even gave multiple TED Talks where he talks about how visual illusions are powerful because they violate your expectations. There's this one part where the crowd is just eating up everything he's saying, and you would think that this is like a Netflix debut comedy special. He shows a picture of what appears to be a man and a woman partaking in activities, and this is shadow play. So it's like the shadow of a woman leaned up against a glass bottle. She's like inside the glass bottle. And there's a man behind her, doing what they do. And he would say something like, this is the best example of priming by experience that I know. If you are a child under the age of 10 that hasn't been ruined yet, you will see the image and see dolphins.
Actually, this is the best example of priming by experience that I know. If you are a child under the age of 10 who haven't been ruined yet, you will look at this image and see dolphins.
Yeah, you see dolphins?
No, but it's odd that he says a child under 10 that hasn't been ruined yet. It's just a little weird, okay? And then he goes on to show a picture of a thing that a 6-year-old drew, turned into her teacher. The assignment being, what do you want to be when you grow up? And because of the way that the story is presented, his voice, his tone, his cadence, clearly it looks like this 6-year-old drew someone who might be a midnight ballerina. That's what it appears to be. And the 6-year-old writes on there, when I grow up, I want to be just like mommy. So now the insinuation is mommy is a midnight ballerina because it looks like someone on a pole and there's a bunch of people holding up wads of cash. The crowd is laughing, and then he shows a letter. This is the letter that the mother sent the teacher. Dear Miss Jones, I wish to clarify that I am not now, nor have I ever been, a dancer. I work at Home Depot, and I told my daughter how hectic it has been last week before the blizzard hit. I told her we sold out every single shovel we had, and then I found one last one in the back room, and that several people were fighting over it and who would get it. Her picture doesn't show me dancing around a pole. It's supposed to depict me selling the last snow shovel we had at Home Depot. From now on, I will remember to check on her homework more. Thank you. So it's a lot of weird stuff, but it's not alarming. It's all like fun and games, right? Until the recent release of the Epstein emails. December 16th, 2010, one email from Al Seckel to Jeffrey Epstein reads, the job was far worse than originally expected. You have a dedicated group of people trying to undo and damage you. He's talking to Epstein in 2010 after his conviction, his first conviction. Including now, they have started up again last week, full force again. It's obvious that they can't fuck with your wiki page because we blocked that. So he's going in and he's making sure no one can write in Jeffrey Epstein's Wikipedia page. The woman from the Daily Beast who wrote an article about you, we have programs that track this stuff. And so for the past few days, Mike has been having a cyber war with her minions who are actively trying to undo what we are doing. She's trying to push her Daily Beast and other articles back up, so we have to go back and push them back down in the Google searches. Then there was the issue of trying to, create a positive web presence for you with the science and organization sites. I spent literally 4 months of nonstop work creatively and my own political capital to get you this far, which saved you not only time, but countless dollars, and isn't something that can be readily bought. I had people also working for free. We did manage to get rid of the Daily Beast article, which is now far removed in spite of their own efforts to keep it prominent. Wikipedia was an important victory, and it will always be at the top of the search engine results. Now the headlines do not mention convicted sex offender or pedophile. Instead, philanthropic work, Epstein Foundation, promotion of scientists. We've stopped the hacking on your wiki site, and that was a major effort. Your wiki entry now is pretty tame, and bad stuff has been muted and pushed to the bottom. Careful editing and wording has muted the effect immensely. We also hacked this site to replace the mugshot in the caption. They hacked Wikipedia. These emails are from 2010. What is the connection between Al Seckel and Epstein? Is this just another one of Epstein's friends who owes him a favor? Al Seckel is actually much closer than that. He's almost family in a way. He is Ghislaine Maxwell's brother-in-law. And soon after these emails, Al Seckel goes missing. Or at least that's what everybody thought. Until weeks later, there is a stench that leads investigators to the bottom of a 100-foot cliff in France, and there, missing a hand and a foot that was likely eaten by a wild boar, is Al Seckel.
When did he die?
2015.
So he sent the email in 2010.
Yes.
This was exposed in 2015?
No, it was exposed recently.
But in 2015 he died?
Yes.
Huh.
There were allegations that he was a fraud rare book seller, but they say that he self-exited. But it's interesting because how many self-exits connected to one case is too many.
And what does he do? Why is he doing all of this for him? Is this just like he gets paid by Epstein? And
I don't think that he's getting paid much. He was dating Ghislaine Maxwell's sister.
So this is like a little favor to keep the family.
But I mean, the speculation is it really a favor, or is it maybe you owe Epstein? Because I mean, I love my extended family. I don't know if I would illegally hack a website for them.
Right. Go that far.
Yeah, especially when they've been convicted of the crime that everyone on the internet is posting about. So truly, How many self-exits connected to one case is too many? We would like to thank today's sponsors who have made it possible for Rotten Mango to support the Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking, aka CAST. This episode's partnerships have also made it possible to support Rotten Mango's growing team, and we'd also like to thank you guys for your continued support as we work on our mission to be worthy advocates. As always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. This episode involves mentions of alleged DV, self-exit, CSA, trafficking. Please watch with caution. And this is part 3 of our coverage of the Epstein files. And I think by this point, hopefully the new Epstein files will be released. That's going to take a lot of time to sort through. If you guys are interested, I can definitely make some follow-up videos. But I mean, we don't even really know what's going to come out of the Transparency Act. Truly, like there is no guarantee that we're going to get any answers to this, or if we're just going to get another dump of emails where it's like, oh, yes, we kind of knew that these people had some sort of relationship, but these emails don't kickstart an investigation. They don't really bring justice or anything. So it might just be that. But just another side note, I am not legally accusing anyone of doing anything. All of these allegations, all of these accusations, and the discourse around each person that's involved or not involved with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell is readily available to be consumed online. There are countless court documents. There are countless things that have been released by the House Oversight Committee. There are so many things that have been circulating online that you can read for yourself and come to your own opinion. So with that being said, let's get started. The committee is where bills go to die. They are the gatekeepers. Before a bill even reaches the Congress floor, the congressional floor, okay, to have a full vote, they have to go through the committee first. And when they do, 90 to 95% of them die. They never make it out of the committee onto the floor, except this bill, Jeffrey Epstein's Transparency Act. I mean, why would it not get signed by everyone, right? They just have to make it to the congressional floor. Why would you not want to know more about those that are involved with Eggstein? By the way, that was from a deposition, okay? So a lot of people have been calling him Eggstein recently. There was an old deposition of Jeffrey Epstein where he is asked about if his private part is truly shaped like an egg.
Is it true, sir, that you have what's been described as an egg-shaped penis?
And he gets so upset, he walks out of the deposition. And for
What?
that, he is now Mr. Eggstein. Now, the Jeffrey Epstein Transparency Act was a bipartisan joint effort from Democrat Ro Khanna from California and Republican Thomas Massie from Kentucky. Interestingly enough, when the Republicans find out that Thomas Massie is working on this bill, so he's trying to get it onto the House floor so they can vote. Once they vote, it goes to the Senate. Then once they vote, if it passes, it goes to the president, and it is now signed as an act. Like, this is going to happen. When the Republicans find out what Thomas Massie is doing, they are not happy. The leadership is not happy, including Donald Trump. Trump attacks Massie on social media, calling him, quote, a real loser. Thomas Massie, the worst Republican congressman, and an almost guarantee no vote each and every time, is an embarrassment, with a capital E, to Kentucky. He's lazy, slow-moving, and totally disingenuous, a real loser. Never has anything positive to add. Looking for someone good to run against this guy, someone I can, capital E, endorse and vigorously campaign for. I don't know why embarrassment and endorse are capitalized E for Epstein, I guess, right? But like, he really hates Massie now. He made fun of him for getting remarried a year after his wife died last year in 2024. And Trump is posting online, boy, that was quick. No wonder the polls have him at less than 8% chance of winning the election. Anyway, have a great life, Thomas, and question mark? Because he doesn't know the new wife's name. His wife will soon find out that she's stuck with a loser. Thomas Massie comes out swinging too. I mean, the girls are really fighting in this one. In an interview, he says, the deal for Republicans on this vote is that Trump will protect you if you vote the wrong way. In other words, if you vote to cover up for pedophiles, you've got cover in the Republican primary.
The deal for Republicans on this vote is that Trump will protect you if you vote the wrong way. In other words, if you vote to cover up for pedophiles, you've got cover in a Republican primary. But I would remind my colleagues that this vote is going to be on your record for longer than Trump is going to be president. And what are you going to do in 2028 and 2030 when you're in a debate, either with a Republican or a Democrat, and they say, how can we trust you? You covered up for a pedophile. back in 2025.
I will say that the MAGA base was having a hard time with this one, with a good chunk of MAGA, at least from what we could find online, siding with the Epstein Transparency Act. Most likely, this act was going to get stomped on. Because if party leadership doesn't want to get it passed, it's not going to get past the committee, which is why Congressmen Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie, they go around it and they do something called a discharge petition. I will say, to get this act onto the House floor to be voted on was a pretty dramatic thing that a lot of people don't talk about. So it means that in order for you to bypass the committee, you have to do a discharge petition. For a discharge petition, you have to have majority of the House representatives. You need 218 out of the 435 to file and sign this discharge petition. But they make it so there's so many legal loopholes, such as the 218 members of the House have to physically go to the clerk's desk at the House chamber to sign the document. They can't do like a DocuSign.
So it's hard.
Yeah, but also like it's kind of their job to just like go do it, right? And this is where 3 Republican House representatives, Marjorie Taylor Greene is of Georgia, Lauren Boebert of Colorado, and Nancy Mace of South Carolina, they decide that they are going to be the 3 Republicans to sway from party leadership. No Republican wants to sign this discharge petition. Every single Democrat has signed it, except the only Republicans are these 3 congresswomen and Thomas Massie.
So these 4 people changed everything.
Yes.
Wow.
Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, fascinating guy. And by fascinating, I mean, what the hell? He states that he opposes the discharge petition because he was worried about the victims, though most people believe it's more likely that he was just doing what Trump wants. Okay, so there was a lot of drama. In addition to the 4 Republicans signing this discharge petition, there was a situation where a Democratic House representative had passed away, and his daughter actually got elected as the representative. And she's clearly a Democrat. And so she needed to be sworn in so that she could sign. Otherwise, they would be down a number from the Democrats. I mean, it's clearly she's going to sign it. She's a Democrat. But also, like, they were just really trying to not let her get sworn in, to the point where at one point, the Republican House rep, Mike Johnson, was like, no. The government is shut down, so we can't sign her in. Or like, it's the weekend, or like, we only meet certain times of month and we can't sign her in. And everyone's like, why can't you sign her in? A lot of people have been sworn in when they haven't had everybody present. And he's like, no, it's for her. I want her to get the full experience of being sworn in. Like, it's a whole thing. It's a whole ordeal. And everyone's like, swear her in so that she can sign the document. There was a lot of drama, but ultimately, with the 4 Republicans and every single Democrat, the discharge petition gets 218 signatures exactly. Just to give you an idea, the modern discharge rule was established in 1931, and out of like 673 discharge petitions, only 47-ish have gotten the 218 signatures. And then out of those, like only a handful have gotten through. Wow. The odds are not in the favor of the Epstein Transparency Act, but it does now go to the floor to be voted on, and they have to get it through the House, then the Senate, and then finally the President. When the discharge petition gets on the House floor, the House votes 427-1. Who is the one lone no vote? Republican Clay Higgins of Louisiana, who argued that the release could cause undue harm to innocent witnesses and family members related to the case. He wrote on X, "It abandons 250 years of criminal justice procedure in America. As written, this bill reveals and injures thousands of innocent people, witnesses, people who have provided alibis, family members. If enacted in its current form, this type of broad reveal of criminal investigative files released to a rabid media will absolutely result in innocent people being hurt."
So everyone voted to like release it at that point. Is it because like they know it's gonna happen?
Yeah, so at that point, even once the discharge petition went through, even Trump was like, Republicans should just vote yes.
Oh.
So Republicans get the party leadership approval, which is
so everyone got the memo. It's like, okay, it's gonna happen now, regardless. Yeah. But that guy still decided to vote no. Even
House Speaker Mike Johnson, he decided to save his own skin, because at that point, everyone is looking at anyone who's gonna vote no and go, hey, so what's on your computer? Who are you emailing? People wanted to know. And so I think at that point, everyone's saving their skin except for Clay Higgins, who has always been super MAGA. So then it goes to the Senate. And the senators, they unanimously passed the bill. And like, it sounds climactic. It sounds like every single one of them sat there and was like signing the bill. But no, they were just like, hey, just anyone have any objections, or are we just going to unanimously pass it? They were like, okay, no objections. It is passed. And by November 19th, 2025, the bill lands on President Trump's desk and he signs it into law. There's a lot of reasons why people think and have these conspiracy theories that Epstein was a spy, an intelligence officer for a foreign nation. The main one that comes up is Israel, that he was an intelligence spy for Israel. Netizens think that this is just too much power. The way that if you read through Epstein's emails, he does not align himself with one political party in the United States. When someone he's talking to is Republican, he takes a more Republican viewpoint. When someone he's talking to is a Democrat, he takes a more Democratic viewpoint. And it just seems that all of his connections lined up more so to be in the Democratic Party. Because he had Ghislaine Maxwell, who knew the Clintons, and then they knew all of these connections. But it does not seem like he himself was like a staunch Democrat. Like, oh, I lean left. These are my political views, which is so interesting. But he's so well connected globally to a bunch of international foreign nations and leaders. And the tapes, the alleged tapes that Epstein has of his client list abusing children, there is this question of, do those tapes exist or not? Because Pam Bondi, Attorney General of the United States, has stated that she has seen tens of thousands of tapes, right?
The tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein.
But she does state that it's between Epstein and minors, but they were never found. And some people say it's because they were never Epstein's. They belong to the foreign intelligences, and they're not going to let it be found.
She has seen it?
She says she has.
But it hasn't been found.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Did you find it or not find it?
Well, I guess the argument there is they're saying they're not going to release it because it's CSAM. But she does state that it's Epstein and minors. Now, what's interesting is that all of the victims, well, most of the victims for Epstein and Ghislaine, they don't recall being filmed when they were partaking in activities with Epstein. But a lot of them recall that Epstein and Ghislaine would allegedly talk about how they had some sort of power over these powerful men that these women were trafficked to, that these girls were trafficked to. So it doesn't make sense. That's why people are saying it wouldn't make sense that Epstein has videos of himself committing acts, like tens of thousands of videos of himself partaking in illegal activities with minors. Like, what would be the purpose of that unless he gets off on it? But none of the victims have said, oh yeah, he gets off on filming these things with us. So that's why people think that those tapes are not of Jeffrey Epstein. But regardless, it seems like whether they exist or do not exist, the DOJ is not specifying anything more because they're saying it's CSAM. And no one is saying that it should be released, or no one is saying that we should get screenshots or anything. It's just weird. It's weird. It doesn't help that Ehud Barak and a few other world leaders were pictured previously with Epstein or have admitted to having met him. And along with the massive dump of emails, Epstein's Kindle purchases get released, his digital Kindle purchases. I will say it's very interesting. In the beginning, he's reading books like Conversations with a Mathematician, Exploring Randomness, even the Jesus Dynasty, A Hidden History of Jesus, his royal family, and the birth of Christianity. And then he starts picking up books about family wealth management, the story of a practical idealist, managing money books, Why We Get Sick, the Celebrity Assistant's Handbook, which details how to deal with the ultra wealthy, Bitcoin for Dummies, Blockchain Technology Explained. He also purchases at least 4 separate books, digital books on Donald Trump, another book about gay Catholic priests, another one titled The Serious Guide to Joke Writing, which is not about gay Catholic priests. However, it does appear that his interests start changing a little bit in 2014 with the books The Man from ORGY. It's a man who studies intimate relations, and he studies it and he loves it, and it makes studying intimate relations even easier. However, the blurb continues. He does odd jobs here and there for, quote, the most secret of American spy organizations. This unnamed agency, which is definitely not the CIA, might send him to various action spots in the world, but it's his lust that makes the spots get active. He just starts reading a bunch of spy books. along with purchases like the complete guide of men Pilates, the physics of immortality, which is about how humans can be resurrected, which Virginia Dufresne states in her memoir, quote, "I'll tell you one thing though, while I've read that Epstein was buried in an unmarked grave not far from his parents in Palm Beach, Florida, I don't believe that at all. Epstein had repeatedly told me exactly what would happen when he died. His body would be placed in some sort of cryogenic chamber to be preserved until technology advanced far enough back to bring him back to life." That's what he always bragged to me, with that satisfied smirk on his face. I know it sounds far-fetched, but I wouldn't bet against the notion that he somehow got his way on this. One of his last book purchases in the last 3 months of his life is Lolita, the annotated and revised version about a man who is obsessed with a 12-year-old girl. However, the most interesting purchase that everybody has been dissecting thus far online is, quote, the title, Rise and Kill First: The Secret History of Israel's Targeted Assassinations. People think it's interesting because there is a speculation that he is an intelligence officer, a spy for Israel, and then he ends up dying in prison later. Additionally, in that vein, he would also make these very strange notes that he would email himself. It's like the journals of a mentally corrupt human. I don't even really know what to call them. So he would just email these random, it would be like 1, 2, 3, 4. It would be numbered in a bullet point list. And then it would be random words in sequences. It's like he's speaking in code or he's talking to himself. Number 26, taste, question mark. Food, question mark. Kissing, question mark. It's like he's playing the world's weirdest word association game. Other lists include 26, money, agreements, debt, power, value, wealth, cost. Number 27, dreaming all day long. Number 28, only 6 senses, question mark. And then at the bottom of this like numbered list, it would just be a whole group of people's names. Hopkins, Danny, Chomsky, Teal, Hoffman, Ehud, Bannon, Barack, Woody.
What?
So a lot of netizens, they've been speculating that these names correlate to a certain number. And these numbers are the last conversations that he had with these people so that next time he converses with them, he can remember what they conversed about. Or maybe what their interests were in. But it's very weird because if you're just a normal person and you don't expect that these are going to go public, why not write it in a journal where it's a little bit easier to understand? Why couldn't you just write Hopkins and then whatever that was, if that is in case what is happening here?
Right.
So it seems like it's just code.
So you're saying that he expected to go public one day?
Or he's sending this email to himself, but there are other people who have access to this email. Or maybe he's taught always to write in code.
Okay.
Or to mix it up a little bit. It's just weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's very weird. And there really are only a few people that would understand what that is. And one of them would be Ghislaine Maxwell. There are only a few people allowed in that room when Ghislaine Maxwell gets interviewed for like the first and probably the last time a few months ago. Spencer Horn, Assistant Special Agent in charge of the FBI. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Also in the room, you have Diego Pestana, Associate Deputy Attorney General, Mark Beard from the U.S. Marshals, and Ghislaine's attorneys David Marcus and Leah Safian, Melissa Madrigal, and Todd Blanche speaks. Go ahead.
And I'm Ghislaine Maxwell.
This is the proffer interview of Ghislaine Maxwell, July 24th, 2025, 10:12 a.m. Todd Blanche tells her what a proffer agreement is and that it's, quote, the most important part of this agreement is that this isn't a cooperation agreement, meaning that by you meeting with us today, we're really just meeting. I'm not promising to do anything. I'm not promising to ask Judge Nathan or any of the judges that's been assigned to your case to do anything about it. We are just talking.
However, almost as important is the fact that what this agreement does for you is it gives you protection. So what it means is that the government cannot use what you say today against you, with some exceptions, which we'll talk about in a minute. But whatever you talk about today, you have what's called immunity.
So those exceptions are things like perjury. Like if you lie, they can get you for perjury. But Blanche says, Miss Maxwell, I guess about a week and a half or two ago, Mr. Marcus, your attorney reached out to me and said that you wanted to speak with somebody from the government about not only your case, but about everything that's been in the media and that's been publicized about Mr. Epstein in your case.
The government said that I'm not doing anything for you.
But I'm gonna, yeah.
You say you want to talk, so I'm here to listen. What is this all about, right? Why is she telling all of these things without any returns?
And like, when the fuck has the government ever listened to anybody, let alone someone that has been convicted of any sort of crime? So it's very interesting. And like I said in the previous episode, it's interesting that this is all coming about when the administration is under a lot of fire about being connected with Epstein. Todd Blanche has some pretty strong connections to President Trump, and not just by being the deputy attorney general. He was previously Trump's personal attorney. So there's a lot of weird things happening here. But one thing that's very important to note is this is really the first time that we hear from Ghislaine herself. We know Ghislaine from what everybody has said about her, from the documents that have been released. She never testified during her trial. And even her trial itself, it was in federal court. It was never live streamed. This is the first time we really hear Ghislaine Maxwell, her voice, for a prolonged period of time.
Yeah.
And she's just as crazy as I freaking imagined. So she starts whining initially about how nobody from the government ever wanted to talk to her, even when she was first indicted and prosecuted, which she states she always wanted to talk to someone at SDNY, which, speaking of SDNY, there is a lot of drama happening right now where Maureen Comey, the former FBI director's daughter, was a prosecutor. She was an attorney for SDNY. She worked on the
SDNY is
the Southern District of New York. This is a federal district. So these are the feds. So they prosecute a lot of white collar crimes. This is the same district that prosecuted Sean Combs. So it's federal court. You can't bring cameras in there. It can't be live streamed. Now, Maureen Comey, who also worked on Sean Combs' case, she worked initially on Jeffrey Epstein's case, never went to trial because he died. And then she worked on Ghislaine Maxwell's case, and that did go to trial, and she was convicted. Now, she gets fired. She gets fired this year, all around the time of this Epstein file talk. And her father, James Comey, who was the former FBI director, he's in like a huge lawsuit, and it's so messy over there. But people just think all this timing is very odd and interesting. Very odd and interesting. So Ghislaine Maxwell is like, SDNY never wanted to talk to me. Even when they indicted me, they didn't want to talk to me. And she says, quote, and I offered myself, and I kept asking if they would meet with me.
And I kept asking if they would meet with me so that I could talk to them, and for whatever reason, that was not happening.
So she starts from the very beginning of how she met Epstein, where there were rumors that it was through her dad, that it was on a blind date. And in Ghislaine's version of events, she says her friend is like, hey, you're almost 30. So she says, quote, I don't need to tell you guys that's a very important moment for a girl to like think about important things.
And a girlfriend of mine, who an American, told me I broken up with I've been engaged, getting the very long-term boyfriend, and we've broken up. Which still I've got, as your girlfriends do, I've got a guy for you to meet. And I'm like, who is it? And she goes, he's been dating my sister, you'll love him, he's looking for a wife. I'm edging towards 30. I don't need to tell you guys that's a very important moment for a girl to think about important things. Sure, I'd be happy to meet him.
So her friend is like, because you're an old decrepit little lady now, you got to think about dating somebody. So her friend introduces her to Epstein, who is dating the friend's sister. Imagine you're like, hey, you need a boyfriend? My sister's boyfriend could be a great pick for you. He's great. I think you guys should get married. And apparently that's what happened. So Ghislaine meets him at his office, where she notices a giant ketchup stain on his tie. And she is so smitten by this ketchup stain that she was like, yes, I will commit atrocious felonies with you. Let's do this. Ghislaine also thinks that we have the intelligence of a drowning cockroach, because she tells Todd Blanche that she slept with Epstein one time in the beginning of their friendship,
So in 1992, I slept with him one time. And I was like, oh, that's it. We're going to be dating. I never slept a single night in the house. Ever.
They were never really dating, per se. They slept together once. And then she didn't sleep with him again for a very long time. And it the relationship was just not that serious.
Were you in a romantic relationship with him at this point, or just
No,
friends?
just friends.
You know, Epstein told me that he had a heart condition. A what? Heart condition. Heart condition. Heart condition. Which meant that he didn't have intercourse a lot, which suited me fine because I actually do have a medical condition myself, which precludes me of having a lot of intercourse.
Epstein told me that he had a heart condition.
Hey, what?
Heart condition.
Heart condition. Okay.
Which meant that he didn't have intercourse a lot, which suited me fine because I actually do have a medical condition, which precludes me having a lot of intercourse.
So what was your understanding of his heart condition and why that prevented him from having intercourse regularly?
I mean, he liked other forms of sexual activity.
So she states later that he really likes self-pleasuring and blowjobs.
He liked blowjobs. That I did observe. And he didn't seem to have any erectile dysfunction for blowjobs, but sex he didn't have. So when...
I don't know what the difference between intercourse and I don't know what is hard. She says, so we stopped having relations in 1999, not full sex. Sorry, just to be clear, you know. Didn't mean that we didn't still share a bedroom sometimes or whatever. In fact, she says that they never really did it. And all of these women who are accusing her of bringing them into the room, leading the massage, being involved in these group activities, she's like, oh God, that's really not me. Like, I've only ever done it with Epstein like a few times. And on top of that, I mean, people think that we are connected by the hip, but that is not at all the case. We barely ever hung out. We actually didn't really like each other like that. She says, in fact, I didn't like the people that he was with anyway. So how do I say this? He was always surrounded by young people, right? I like people who are my age or older, and I don't find the society of the companionship of younger people, I suppose, is really that enjoyable.
I don't like the company that he chose to be with. And so I just was kind of boring and fundamentally uninteresting. That's probably the nicest way I can say it.
Throwing Epstein under the bus now?
Yeah. And she says that, by the way, in case you guys didn't know, I was in a full-blown relationship with a billionaire.
Oh, yeah?
She states that during this time, she was dating another billionaire by the name of Todd Wyatt. Wyatt? But this is in from 2003 to like 2010. And she says that he is the founder of Gateway Computers, quote, as you may know. And we had an amazing relationship that ended up until 2010, I think. And I was with Ted from that time. So she says that she even attended Chelsea Clinton's wedding as Ted's guest. Weird. And she says, you know, back in those times, if you asked Ghislaine where Epstein was, she would even tell you, I would have no idea. I didn't even have the keys to his houses. Like, I think it's crazy. Like, she makes it seem like it's crazy that everybody is saying that they were joined at the hip, that they were Bonnie and Clyde. She's like, I barely saw the guy. If you asked me where he was at any given point, I don't think I would have had the answer. I didn't think so. I mean, that's how detached we were.
What time frame was all the crimes happening? Is that the same time frame that she claims?
Yes.
So she claims that I wasn't even there.
Yeah, she's like, I barely know the man. Blanche is like, okay, so when Epstein was first arrested in like 2008, that's when you realized that something was wrong with the guy? She's like, I didn't even know that. I didn't even understand. She's like, I didn't even know that he was arrested. I read through the press.
And then when he's charged in New York federally, how did you learn about that case?
In the press.
And had you, as far as you know, been contacted by law enforcement before his arrest?
No. I wasn't in the indictment.
No, I know that, but even as a witness or asking you if you would give documents or materials.
Up until when my lawyers said that I don't even know. I had no knowledge of them being interested in me. Honestly, I want to say until he had died.
What?
She's like, I didn't have any context for that. You know, I'm not even sure what I thought. I was like, that's weird. So after you find out, what happens with your relationship with Epstein? I asked him what was going on. And he said, not to worry, nothing, taking care of it. Don't worry about it. He didn't share, you know, I wasn't part of it all. I was off with Ted. I really just was off with Ted. Meanwhile, while he's in prison, she continues to take care of everything for him. And he keeps paying her lots of money.
Okay, so what's going on with this conversation? Like, she's just making up random stories and they're just listening to, okay, yeah, I believe you. Keep going.
Yeah, basically, like this conversation doesn't make any sense at all. And
Are they pushing her? Are they like challenging her, or are they just listening?
Barely. And there's so many parts of this conversation. And again, I'm really not trying to let any sort of political bias come through, but I do think that there's very suspect things in this entire proffer interview, including the fact that there are various times in which she brings up the conversation of Trump and talks about how he has nothing to do with anything. There's at one point at the end of the day on day one, because this proffer interview lasted 2 days, where she's like, you know what? I just want to say something before we end this interview. And she's like, it really bothers me. And this is paraphrasing, but I mean, you could see it on, I'm going to insert the clip. She's like, it really bothers me that people are associating President Trump with all of this stuff. And like, I don't know what's wrong with the media. And it's like, girly pop, nobody freaking asked you that just now.
Yeah.
May I say something?
Of course, yes.
I just would like to put out there that I also focused on how I think the president got swept into some of this unnecessarily, by the way. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I certainly don't subscribe to all of everything that I see, but I do believe that there is animus in some areas that may have contributed to how the use of the president to harm him, that I find deeply offensive. And whilst I can't obviously say definitively that that is what it is, I would like to show you what I see so that you can evaluate it and do with that as you see fit. If it needs to be addressed, I've seen it, it struck me, and I would like to give it to you for what it's worth.
Okay.
It's just weird. It's weird. It gets even weirder because there are moments where, okay, so for example, there's this one point of the proffer interview where Todd Blanche is just like, look, if Epstein's flying from Palm Beach to St. Thomas and he's flying all over the country to New Mexico, to New York, or even to Palm Beach, and then there's young women, you know, putting aside whether they're under the age of 18 or in their 20s, they're there every day at the house, multiple massages on some days. You're interacting with the masseuses constantly. Ghislaine hits him with a, huh?
You're interacting with the masseuses constantly.
Todd Blanche walks it back. Or maybe that's not right. That's not right. Let me take back what I just said. Ignore that part. Okay.
Or maybe that's not right.
That's
let
not right.
Let me take back what I just said. Ignore that part.
Wait, what is that?
Because the whole interview, she's talking about how she never really even interacted with the masseuses. So like if she went to go get a massage from a third party and she says, quote, not one of those funky places.
And in my effort to find them, I would go to massage spas, like legitimate spas. We're not talking, you know, funky ones. And if I got a massage from somebody in a spa that was I liked, I asked them if they would do home visits. If they said yes, I would ask them to come to the house, and they would see if he liked them or not. But these were people who worked in spas. I never ever checked their age, and I never checked their credentials. I never asked for a certificate.
Meaning like a proper massage place. And she likes the masseuse. She'll bring them in to work on Epstein, but she never was like recruiting underage people. She never really hung out with the masseuses. She states she wasn't even the one paying the masseuses, which goes against like every single victim's testimony. But she's like, I really had nothing to do with these masseuses. I never even saw anything sexual happen with a massage, like a masseuse, nothing. And so at this point, he says, you're interacting with the masseuses constantly. And she just hits him with a, huh? He walks it back. Or maybe that's not right. That's not right.
So like he's catering his story based on whatever she just said.
Yes. And I understand that there is, to some degree, you want to make the convicted felon feel a little bit more comfortable so that they feel like they should open up and they should tell you things that they might not tell someone who is bringing in a hostile environment. However, it's so accommodating that we're getting absolutely nothing out of this. I mean, It's so ridiculous. Is Todd Blanche, am I Todd Blanche? Like, this is the most non-confrontational thing that I've ever witnessed in my life. But how are you the Deputy Attorney General? And Todd Blanche is actually quite a confrontational person.
Really?
Yeah, so, I mean, I just don't understand what the hell is happening here.
So they seem very friendly.
So friendly, so accommodating, so polite. I'm like,
see.
what is happening?
Yeah, I don't even understand the purpose of this interview.
Exactly. The purpose really just seems to be President Trump is a great man, and I don't think that he's involved. If you're new to RM, we had a small business with Shopify called Grandpa Mingo's Art Studio a handful of years ago. It was kind of our first time dipping our toes into the pool of small businesses, and by nature of the art being limited edition, it was a much smaller endeavor. Fast forward to today, we have a very special project in the works that is hopefully going to be on an even bigger scale compared to Grandpa Mingo's Art Studio, and we're so excited to reveal it to you. And the whole process of being a small business owner is like the reason why we love Shopify. Shopify grows with you and your small business. So no matter the scale, whether you're in person or just online or both, your inventory, transactions, consumer data all sync up seamlessly. Shopify's point of sale system is a unified command center for your business that brings together in-store and online operations. It makes everything simpler so customers can shop how they want and staff have the tools to close the sale every time. So turn those what ifs into why nots and keep giving those big dreams the best shot with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/rotten. Go to shopify.com/rotten. Shopify.com/rotten. And they just let her get away with things. They let her get away with saying things like, you know, he told me he had difficulty having an erection. I believed him. Blanche is like, can you elaborate? Like, what do you mean by that? Because when I didn't have sex with him after the first time, I took it as a, you know, I asked him, so was it me? And he told me it was him. Todd Blanche is like, what? She says, I had never, up until this moment in my life, as if I'm, you know, not stupid.
I'm not stupid. I'm very bright. I've had an excellent education. I traveled all over the world. I had boyfriends, but I had never met or understood that somebody could be so would lie to me about. It never occurred to me. I didn't have a frame of context within my life experience where somebody would be so manipulative and devious with me. And plus I just didn't have, and I was happy not to have sex because I have a condition that doesn't lend itself to that.
So she just says, I never had intimate relations with Epstein because he can't have a bonbon or whatever you want to call it. This is her excuse for everything. She says, I was never involved. I was never having these relations where I was assaulting children with Epstein because he cannot. I've only had relations with Epstein one time. And then it was only one time, so I asked if it was my problem, and he said, it's not your problem. The only thing that Todd Blanche does kind of stick to is like, hey, but you are getting paid a lot of money.
Were you relying on that money to live and his generosity to live, or did you have your own money? Okay, so we're going to come back and spend more time on the money with respect to Mr. Epstein and his wealth. But what did you learn about his wealth and how he was and how he accumulated his money? What is he doing to make money that you see? Does he have clients? Does he have rich clients? Does he have famous clients?
So you're saying that you're not recruiting masseuses for him, like inappropriate masseuses, that these are regular massage therapists, but then you're just, what? You're a house manager? You're signing contracts for third-party designers for all of his homes? That's about what you're telling me your job duties are, right?
I mean, this is a complex operation. I'm not talking about anything untoward, just the sheer size of the projects. I'm talking the construction projects, the houses. It's a really significant job. I ran all the properties, the staff in the property, the management of the properties.
So we're talking $18.3 million in 1999, $5.5 million 3 years later in 2002, $7.4 million in 2007. That money adds up to be around $30 million. Ghislaine Maxwell responds, I don't believe any of that was my money, even though they're going straight to her accounts.
That money adds up to around $30 million. You were not paid that by Mr. Epstein, meaning that's not money you received for your benefit, even if it was put into your accounts.
I don't believe any of that was my money.
What I'm just trying to make sure that I understand is that the idea that you were paid $30 million in order to, by Mr. Epstein, to reward you for recruiting young women, you're saying that is categorically completely false.
That is categorically false, correct.
And then he doesn't really do anything about that. So then we just start going down the list of everybody that she's met and interacted with.
Did you ever meet JFK Jr.?
I'm sorry?
Did you ever meet JFK Jr.?
Yes.
I met him at Andrew Cuomo's, no, Carrie's wedding. Who did Carrie marry? Andrew Cuomo. Yes, Andrew Cuomo's wedding. She says that she likely met him before she was friendly with Epstein, and quote, I fancied him.
Did you have any sort of professional or social relationship with John F. Kennedy Jr.?
I fancied him.
You what?
I thought he was very attractive.
Oh, you fancied him?
Sorry.
Besides finding him attractive and fancying him, did you have any sort of social relationship with him? I mean, we knew each other. I thought he was wonderful and fun, and I enjoyed meeting him. We went out, and I want to say we had a dinner or two, but obviously I was very excited, but that was it. And I knew his brother. And so now she's talking about Andrew Cuomo again. I knew his brother. You knew his brother. He has a brother, right? What's his name? He's on TV. Chris? Right, Christopher Cuomo. But I would just say socially, I'm just not close friends or anything, but I was friends with Carrie, which is Andrew Cuomo's ex-wife, and I met him a few times, and I certainly met his brother as well a few times. Yeah, Carrie, Andrew Cuomo's ex-wife, is also Carrie Kennedy of the Kennedy family. So just so you know, she's also not just part of the Kennedy family. She is JFK's niece, former President JFK's niece. She was married to Andrew Cuomo until 2005. Nevertheless, the list of names continues. Ghislaine says that she does recall meeting Alan Dershowitz and his wife on the island, but never had any sort of inappropriate behavior, never witnessed anything. How about Mr. Weinstein, Harvey Weinstein?
How about Mr. Weinstein, Harvey Weinstein?
What would you like to know?
Do you know him?
Yes.
How do you know him? Is it a relation you had kind of separate from Mr. Epstein, or did you meet him through Mr. Epstein, or?
I wouldn't say I had any type of relationship with Harvey Weinstein.
Okay.
In any context.
Have you ever met Bill Gates over the years? Yes. Because of your relationship with Mr. Epstein, or separate? I met Mr. Gates when I went to a TED conference. I actually spoke at the TED conference, not the main stage, the substage. And I also gave a few TEDx speeches. But I might have met them there. But we were friendly, and I actually did meet him because I knew of, I don't know if he was chief of staff or whoever, but Boris.
Did you meet Bill Gates over the years?
Yes, because I knew I don't know if he's chief of staff or whoever, Boris.
Who's Boris?
Boris is the chief of staff for Bill Gates, apparently.
And you don't recall ever being on a plane with him flying to the island or to anywhere?
No.
Do you know Elon Musk?
Do you know Elon Musk?
I do.
And how did you meet Mr. Musk?
I met him, I don't remember the year, but it's going to be in 2010, 11, something like that, I think, if my memory serves. I was at an event for Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google.
How is she in everybody's business? It's crazy.
Everybody's business.
That is crazy.
Yeah, that's why everyone's like, are they
So she's like the
intelligent?
peak social climber type of...
People are saying this is not a normal level of social climbing either.
It's so weird.
And the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell comes from a disgraced family where her father was like stealing money from pension funds, it doesn't make sense.
Right. It's like, why are these people talking to her?
That's why people think that she was working with intelligence agencies. But she said that she was at an event for Sergey, the co-founder of Google. And Sergey, it was his birthday. And so a bunch of them, she says, quote, maybe, I don't know, if I would say 40, it could be wrong. It could be 30 or 50, I don't remember. Went to another friend's island.
Went to another friend's island, somebody called Mr. Bigotzi in the Caribbean, and not with Epstein. He was not there to celebrate Sergey's birthday. And we were there together for, I want to say 3 or 4 days, something like that, in my memory. And Mr. Musk was present for that.
So everybody has an island, and you just like hop to different people's island.
Yeah, and she does mention that like Richard Branson also has an island nearby. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Did you meet or know Mr. Musk's brother? I don't know if I ever met him. I know that he has a brother. I don't think I met him. She mentions that they also met again after an Oscars after party. And
Elon Musk?
Yeah. I believe that Epstein knew Musk.
And do you know whether Mr. Epstein knew Mr. Musk?
I believe they did. And the only reason I say that it's not from my memory, but because I think I saw, my memory is that in Discovery, they were communicating on email.
But I mean, it's not necessarily the most incriminating thing. People have not been bringing Musk's name into the Epstein client list because he was the one that tweeted that Trump is not releasing the files because there was a whole drama.
Right.
So a lot of people are like, well, he probably is not on the files if he's saying all that.
Yeah.
And lots of people were on the emails. Also, he's like the richest man in the world. Don't sue me. Then they go back to RFK Jr. and again, he is the one with the worm in his brain, and he does sound like he just smoked like 9 cigarettes before doing a press interview. It's crazy, but Ghislaine says that she had gone dinosaur bone hunting in the Dakotas with him.
Bobby Kennedy knew him.
Sorry, say that again about Bobby Kennedy.
Bobby knew Mr. Epstein.
How do you know that?
Because we went on a trip together. We went to dinosaur bone hunting in the Dakotas.
Protect the dinosaurs and protect the bears is what I'm learning from this. And she says, I knew Bobby's wife. So Bobby is his nickname. I knew Bobby's wife, Mary, pretty well, actually. And before he met her. Mary passed away in 2012 while her divorce with RFK Jr. was still pending. This divorce is not without its controversies. RFK Jr. accused Mary of running over and killing their family dog in the driveway, that she was violent and abusive. Mary accused RFK Jr. of being a sexual deviant, of constantly cheating on her and waging a scorched earth campaign against her. And whilst the divorce was pending, Mary died by self-exit. Ghislaine states that her boyfriend back in the 80s had a brother who dated Mary, and that's how they knew each other. And then Mr. Epstein. Did Mr. Epstein meet Bobby Kennedy through you? I don't think so, because Mr. Epstein...
Surprisingly, everyone says everything happens through me. That's just not true. I mean, I think yesterday I explained that he had friends from London, and they were what the people would call fancy. They were fancy people.
So she's like, no, he didn't meet Bobby through me. But then she states, I never saw anything inappropriate with Mr. Kennedy. I mean, yesterday, if I didn't make it clear, I will reiterate. I never ever saw any man do anything inappropriate with a woman of any age. I never saw inappropriate habits. Now, I'm not going to say hands I mean, that to me is not inappropriate.
A what?
I guess like holding hands.
Oh.
Now, somebody's inappropriate and mine might be different. We're not talking about anything that resembles the accusations that we've discussed. So that would be a flat out no to any man. Also, she just can't remember anything.
I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't remember. I can't remember what. I can't remember now. But.
And as for why she can't remember a single damn thing and has the hippocampus of a toad that's been deceased for half a century, she says, I don't recall all of them. Not because I'm trying to be evasive or anything, but I just don't remember them. And after a while, in the incredible job that you all have, all of you, that when you're so high pressured and you're spending so much time with extraordinary people, like with President Trump, it can blur. It just does.
Did she really talk like that?
Yeah, basically.
It's so obvious.
I mean, this is like a very dramatic interpretation, but I think that her accent doesn't help. She does have a very posh way of speaking that's very holier than thou. She has a very posh accent.
In the incredible job that you have, all of you, that when you're so high pressured and you're spending so much time with extraordinary people like you do with President Trump, it can blur.
She also says about Bill Clinton, so I started spending a lot of time. I don't want to categorize that, but I started spending time with the former president and with Doug and his team. And then I had no purpose really other than I obviously offered something. I don't know, ideas of, I don't know. And he started to travel.
Who started travel? Bill?
Yeah, so she's like, I'm traveling with Bill Clinton and like I offered him ideas or like, I don't know, or like ideas or like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. And then she talks about how there is a rumor where she flew Bill Clinton on a helicopter to the island for nefarious reasons. And she says, that is so patently absurd that I flew him in a helicopter. I am a helicopter pilot. That is true.
I am a helicopter pilot. That is true. But the notion of me flying an ex-president and a machine, that would terrify me. I would never even take that responsibility. Can you imagine? Yeah, no, I'm not. No.
And then she goes on to state that the reason that she can't really remember anything is because she was in solitary confinement at MDC Brooklyn for quite some time. And MDC has one of the most heinous, and she starts talking about the prison system there. And Todd Blanche is like, not on my transcript. We're going to stop you right here. Moving on.
My memory's not as good as it was because when I was in Brooklyn, I was in the SHU for almost 2 years. And I was on suicide watch for almost 2 years, which meant that they woke me up every 15 minutes for the entire time. And it really did affect my ability to
understand.
Okay.
Yeah, he said, not on my watch. So, but she just tried to blame MDC Brooklyn for the reason that she's very messed up. And I don't think so because, I mean, yes, I think prison reform and I think MDC Brooklyn is probably one of the worst of the worst, but also you were messed up from the get-go. So I don't know what she's talking about. Ghislaine also goes on to state that any woman that she saw around Epstein's vicinity was very interested in him.
I saw Epstein with women. What I mean by that is he would have women around him, or women on the plane, or women in his house, or that's how I'm explaining that. Those women were very interested. What my characterization of the relationships between all women that I saw with him and him was characterized by their interest in him as I would see it. And by that I mean I never saw anybody who didn't want to be with him.
Nobody was there by force or uncomfortable or in distress. She says, I never saw that. She said, you know, if you were massaging his feet, I mean, they were happy to be there.
He would ask people all the time, whoever you were, to massage his feet. It just was, he'd be sitting there and he'd have somebody massage his feet or squeeze his shoulders, or I saw that a lot.
Did you see him engage in sexual conduct during a massage? Well, you could define sexual conduct as in, I did see women who would have been, you know, less than normally clad for massages, but especially on the island where they would be in bikinis or possibly even topless. Yeah, I did see that. But she doesn't have any recollection of anyone underage giving Epstein a massage or doing anything inappropriate during a massage.
Did you ever observe Mr. Epstein masturbating during a massage?
Yes.
Okay, so what are you saying? I mean,
when I'd seen him on a massage table, I had seen him masturbate. I don't know if there was a masseuse present, but I've seen him on a massage table. Okay. Sorry, I just...
Okay.
What?
Okay. And then she says, you know, let me give a rant. And she just starts ranting. The narrative started in 2009 is really when it started.
So that narrative that was created and then built upon and it just mushroomed into what... Basically, this is like a Salem witch trial. People gone lost their minds for this thing. I understand that. But the issue is, how do you satisfy a mob who can't understand the lifestyle because it's like P. Diddy in Redux on TV with Clintons and Trump? I mean, it's bananas.
Wait, that's a bad example to give.
No, yeah.
Has she not been watching the news?
Yeah, has she not watched the new Netflix documentary?
Like...
With the Clintons and Trump, I mean, it's bananas. And while some of it's real, he did do those things, Epstein.
He did do those things. I'm definitely not disputing that. But this was a man, but this is the one man. He's not they've made him into this, he's not that interesting. He's a disgusting guy who did terrible things to young kids. You're not going to hear me say what he did to people who are over the age of 18. I'm sorry. I'm not going to go there. That's just not what I'm here to. I mean,
we made him into a nasty thing, or he is?
He is, but we made this into a whole conspiracy involving her when she's so clearly innocent.
Wait, I thought she just said that she never seen him do anything to anybody.
Yes, she says that she never saw, but she believes the victims.
Oh.
At least the ones that don't accuse her.
I see. I see. So she thinks that Epstein is evil and nasty and does these things to young kids. Just she never seen anything.
Yeah.
So that okay.
And she says, you know, if you met Epstein, there is no way that this cast of characters, which is like extraordinary, and some are in your cabinet who you value as coworkers, you know, would be with him if he was a creep or because they wanted sexual favors. A man wants sexual favors, he will find that. They didn't have to come to Epstein for that. Now, did some of them? Okay, I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't see it. Okay.
How does she have this attitude when she's already, you know, in prison for this long and all?
And the way that she's trying to convince us of these things, she would have an easier time convincing everyone that she stuck a 7-foot Christmas tree up her butt. I don't understand. I don't get it.
Yeah.
And then she goes on to state that this is all Virginia's doing, that she has nothing to do with this, that she was just working for Epstein, but it was all Virginia. Now, the DOJ does redact Virginia's name, but it's very clear that from context, it's Virginia Giuffre. Ghislaine accuses Virginia.
I think because in December of 2001, he met, and I think was responsible for that in its entirety.
When Virginia was a child herself, so like this is what she's saying, like Virginia was a child herself, and she is saying that Virginia is responsible for this. Ghislaine says
she was a self-confessed, having been abused as a young girl, and was trained, her words, I'm quoting now, not mine, in all the arts of whatever that is, the sex program by a man called Ron Eppinger, who was her pimp from when she was 14, I believe, or 15, I don't know.
Virginia Giuffre was trafficked by Ron Eppinger, if you listen to part 1, and Ghislaine is saying that she was trained to do this. She was trafficked. And she continues, and in her book describes him training her to be what every man wants in all its manners, fellatio and everything else. Ghislaine goes on to spew nonsense about how Epstein's interest in underage masseuses started because of Virginia, and that Virginia was the one recruiting fellow young girls to come in and service Epstein. She also badmouths Virginia by saying things like,
so she takes up with the local drug dealer, and she becomes druggy. Like, you know how druggies, well, maybe you don't. I live with a lot in Tallahassee. They become even more unreliable than normal.
So now she's saying she's unreliable because she got into drugs. And so she blames everything on Virginia Giuffre. And how convenient is that when Virginia Giuffre, just a few months before this proffer interview, passes away? She says, quote,
every single person who came to his house came through, and her boyfriend Tony, and then whoever else underneath her. And that is how it started.
So,
Did they push back on that when she said that?
No, they just kept saying things like, well, let's not get into he said, she said. Let's not get into individuals. It's messed up. But one of the biggest things that came from this proffer interview is that lends itself to the theory that Ghislaine and Epstein were working as foreign national spies, gathering intel and blackmail material on the most powerful people in the US. There is a fascinating email from a redacted person who reaches out to Epstein in 2013, asking what he knows about being an offset service provider. I don't know what that means. That sounds like you work for Verizon or something, okay? But Epstein responds, yes, one of the most complex negotiations, as they are very strange. Someone buys fighter jets, but with the fighter money, some must be used for specific third-party items, such as, I will buy your pussy for $10,000, but with 2 of the 10, you have to buy me food. And to make matters worse, I need to borrow another 10 from you. The person responds, so the offset service provider does what? Negotiation between the parties? Complex. Sounds interesting. Epstein says, Brazil has tried to buy fighters in the past. They don't have a lot of money. The redacted email responds, apparently Brazil is a hot investment place now. It's more about the offset part than the jet deal. Sweden and the USA are all lobbying to get the jet deal, as aviation is tied with potentially big tourism deals. 36 planes. I was just on call with a guy in Sweden who is dealing with this. I never know if the stories are real, but he claims to work with the Brazilian president, Obama, and Warren Buffett, etc. So, I mean,
what is happening?
The amount of knowledge that he has in military contracts and fighter deals is odd. So people are saying this doesn't sound like someone who's just scheming billionaires. Like if he is just blackmailing billionaires or being a financial tax advisor, this is weird stuff that he has access and knowledge to. In another email, he tells a redacted individual, I passed your message. In addition, I'm not sure what role you and your boss would like to play in the Yemen issue moving forward. The rebel leaders are ready to propose a document. They would like a ceasefire and halt. If you like, I could pass on their proposal. This is not what I do. My expertise is only money, but it seems like your part of the world would like advice. So he's now dealing with a ceasefire in Yemen. In another text message, Epstein is talking to another redacted individual writing, spoke to my China guys and they said China stronger, plays weakened, strife, art of war, etc. Said all the players are Xi loyalist. Main complaints is that there's no counterparty in US, either no one home or new to the game. He texts again, this is just a year before his death. I had 3 China guys today. I told them that they should brief you. There's a 40-year anniversary in Beijing of the beginning of Economic Growth Initiative. He's also meeting in 2017 with the Mongolian ambassador for the UN. And this is in 2017. This is just 2 years before he dies. He also emails about how he just spoke with one of the Ambani family members, one of the billionaire families from India. He also writes, India, Israel, key, not for email. So this is, a lot of people have interpreted this as telling an Ambani family member that the key for India and US relations to soften is Israel. Israel is the key.
Wow, wow.
There's also pictures of him with African warlords, which Ghislaine comes up with this like very bizarre explanation for that in the Proffer interview where she says, no, so the reason that he hangs out with African warlords in that picture is because he had a business idea where if a billionaire had money stolen from them, like if a cartel has money stolen from them, he would go find that money, track it down, and he would bring it back and he would get a percentage of the recovered money.
So let's say you have El Chapo, and El Chapo is laundering money or he's working with the Sinaloa cartel, and he steals money from the Sinaloa cartel and he moves it to wherever. So he's got stolen money from the Sinaloa, goes to this didn't happen. I'm just just coming up with something in my head. And the Sinaloa says to Epstein, can you track down my $1 billion that the other cartels stole from me? And Epstein will go and find the $1 billion and will take a portion of the money that was stolen as a fee and give back the remainder. That would be on a percentage basis.
And everyone's like, what does that have to do with African warlords?
Mm-hmm.
But to address the rumors that Epstein and Ghislaine were spies, Todd Blanche asks her, have you ever had any contact with any representatives that you know from Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency? Can you ask me that again? Have you ever had any contact with any individuals that you understand to be from Mossad, an Israeli intelligence agency? Well, not deliberately. Pardon me? Not deliberately.
Well, not deliberately.
Pardon me?
Not deliberately.
And did you know, we asked this, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but just to put a finer point on it, did you ever know that were you ever told, you ever think that Mr. Epstein was getting any money from any intelligence agency, including Mossad?
I don't believe so, but I wouldn't know. I mean, I would be very surprised if he did. I don't think so. No.
Were there any international businessmen or politicians that had a very close relationship with Mr. Epstein that we haven't already talked about? Off the top of my head, I can think of Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel. What was his involvement? She says that they weren't that close. And she says, for good measure, you know, anything that touches Israel or the state of Israel, I'm always interested in.
My father loved Israel, and so I pay attention to it, and we have ties to Israel.
When you said it was later, though.
Ties meaning friends and family relations.
Also, this is like a lot of people have interpreted this as she's trying to tell Israel that like she's not turning on them. It's really weird because the way that she just is like, I have family in Israel and I have so many ties to Israel and I'm always interested in Israel because my father loved Israel. It's really bizarre. Do you know the nature of Ehud Barak's relationship with Mr. Epstein? I don't. Were you ever with them together?
I think I have a memory of meeting Ehud, but I don't know if he was with Epstein or I don't remember. I just know that I did see him, and I'm struggling to remember the context around it. But I'm sure it happened, but it must have been very brief because I don't have any serious memory of it.
And then as to make things, I mean, this just makes everything sketchier, but she says, Certainly, my father had a background in intelligence. He is a British intelligence officer. I think that my sort of belief is that once you've been an intelligence officer, it doesn't mean that you're formally employed. So I don't think my dad, in any formal sense, was, employed by the agency. And then she's like, but I think it's absurd that everyone thinks that we are spies. But then later, she'll say shit like this. I've had some interesting things that have happened in my life. And one of them was I found out the IRA, so this is in Ireland, had me on their kidnap and murder list.
One of them was to be found on an IRA kidnap and murder list.
Her dad is like a British intelligence officer. Yeah, but after that happened, my father always wanted to put a lot of protection on me, obviously. So it's weird because this didn't make it any clearer. I don't think that this proffer interview is going to make these conspiracy theories die down or feel less legitimate to the people who already believe it. Now, at this point, that's pretty much all we got from her proffer interview, and there have been speculations because she was moved to a very low, minimal security prison that she's going to get pardoned at the end of Trump's term. And he's been very evasive about it. He would say things like, I don't want to talk about pardons. Let's not talk about pardons right now. But she's got access to phones, emails, weekend visits, recreational sports. I believe it's like unlimited yard time.
So she was moved after this interview?
Yes, exactly. So she's moved after this interview, and she's still trying to get out of her entire conviction by saying that she had a non-prosecution agreement as by the sweetheart deal that Jeffrey Epstein signed in 2009. So I guess we're going to have to see. But Virginia Giuffre, on page 139 of her memoir, she writes, I had been trafficked to dozens of men by this point, and I remember their faces clearly. There were old men and even older men, nerdy, shy men, and boorish, arrogant men. There were men who wanted me to wear outfits and men who wanted to see me naked, and men who didn't notice if I was clothed as long as I touched them. There were men who behaved as if I were lucky to be with them, and there was at least one man who ignored me as I serviced him sexually, preferring instead to focus his eyes upon and even fondle Epstein. Someone just a lot of people want to know who that is. A lot of people want to know who everyone is. Virginia writes in her book, nobody experiences trauma and emerges unscathed. I certainly haven't. Even before I met Epstein, I'd experienced awful things that I've made some observers label me as his perfect victim. But I was also resilient, or I wouldn't be here now. I still have night terrors and panic attacks. I still have moments of feeling worthless. Perhaps I always will. But on many days, especially when I've been able to help another survivor, I thrive. My hope is that this book can aim some light at the darkness and force it to crawl back into its cave. My point is that while Jeffrey Epstein is dead and gone, there are many others around the world who are still committing the same kinds of crimes that he did. Hopefully, the files will put an end to that. And the files should be coming out after you see this, probably in a week. But we don't know if things are going to be how they've always been and we're going to get a whole bunch of nothing, or if we're actually going to get something this time. So stay tuned. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.